I'm working. I don't know if we're live. Are we live yet?
We are broadcasting now.
Okay. Yeah. It's funny. This is the last. I'll show this real quick. I got this done last night, I guess. It's
Wow,
the
look at
it's
that.
the final page or the first page of the final issue, and I thought it looks really good. I'm very happy with the pencils. I'm very happy. Um, but I'm like, I'm working on this fourth issue, which is the final issue of the first arc and the thing that we've been working towards and all that jazz. And I'm going, will there be a society to release it to? you
Well, yeah, I
know,
mean, you do need a healthy crowd out there for you.
yeah. Here's the real talk, I guess. Um, a year ago, I was hoping that I could go to San Diego Comic Con and sell my book. And about a month ago, or maybe 2 months ago, I was talking to my writer, and he was like, "Well, even if we had it done in time, it's not going to happen." So I'm like,
Mm.
"Okay, well, what about? You think we'll be done? As long as we're done by New York?" And he said, "Well, given the schedule is pre-virus, given before the schedule, he said that's a long shot. It might be done, but it probably won't be printed." So I've kind of uh, been dealing with this idea. When am I gonna, even when I get done? When am I going to be able to put this book out? And and so I'm kind of like, well, I'm not in a hurry to finish it, I guess. Because at this point, I mean, who knows how long it'll be? It may be a year before it comes out, and so it's like, well, why not just do like a really good job? And then I'm gonna scan, which is something I haven't been doing. I'm gonna scan all my pencils before I ink them, and just do the best I can at it. And if it comes out great, and then at the very least, I have a great book. If it never, well, I mean, I think there's fully intention of releasing it, and I have the publisher, and it'll get out, but it's just isn't going to get out for a while, I don't think. And so I feel like I have a little bit of time to make things good. Um, and I
Well,
always
you,
kind of planned on making a big push on the last issue to be like, okay, this is the book that will come out last. It'll be the one that everyone kind of remembers, So
hmm
if I do good on this book, everyone will go, well, he got better as he went along. But if I do bad on it, then it'll be like, well, he just didn't stick the landing or whatever. And so anyway, so because of that, I'm like, well, I'll make it good. You know,
well,
I'm
it's
not.
looking good.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty happy with it so far. You know, and I'm still working in the daytime remotely for my job, which is good. They sent out an email today, and they're still committed. I mean, they're committed, and everything's still hunky dory with my job, and everyone's happy because not everyone can work remotely. And so there seems to be the impression that, like, well, if you can work remotely and be productive and get work into the company and get money into the company, by all means do it.
Hmm
You know, um, but it's like a nightmare, man. I mean, a couple of weeks was one thing, but holy cow, we're talking about a whole month at this point, or even longer. This is like, oh my gosh, you know,
It's something like my current status as a retired guy. It doesn't rattle me too much. I just know that what I see in grocery stores and everything is unnatural now.
yeah,
And it's kind of it's also sad. It's
yeah,
because everything that should be getting done is not getting done.
Oh, absolutely. I mean,
The uh, the normal has just gone completely south on what is normal, and it'd be
well,
nice to
and
go back to it. You know.
yeah, what's bad is the economy was roaring along pretty good. I mean, people will argue that or whatever, but the economy was clipping along pretty good, and this has obviously derailed it. Certainly.
Well, you got to wonder how many meetings went on with all the miscellaneous people that do talk together that consider the United States their chief enemy.
Oh yeah. Well,
And because I mean, after all, the Saudis and the Russians getting together at once, even though they aren't doing each other any favors, the Saudis stuck a knife in the Russians' throat as deeply as they did with us on the fracking
oh
stuff
yeah.
because they just said, "Yeah, we got plenty of oil. We'll sell it for a nickel."
Yeah.
Whatever.
Well, they can't exist at the price that neither Russia or Saudi Arabia can exist at the price it's currently selling at
Yeah,
for very long. They can't support their economy on it from what I've read,
yeah,
and
probably not.
so we'll see what happens with that. That's a whole nother thing. Jeez.
But apparently, it is just a ploy to like, okay, we hate fracking. We're going to try to kill it. I think that's. Don't you imagine that's exactly what they're doing? What they're trying
Oh,
to
I think
do?
yeah, I think yeah, yes, because fracking is more expensive, but you get oil from places that didn't normally have oil
Mm-hmm.
because it was coming from well, it was coming from the shell is my understanding. So they're extracting it from the minerals in the ground.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah, and I don't know honestly. I don't know how much fracking actually goes on in Oklahoma because there's a lot of oil in Oklahoma that they don't have to frack to get to. Um, I know there's some because they're talking about some of the effects of the earthquakes and stuff.
Yeah, earthquakes. I couldn't. Those have diminished. So I figured they figured out something that they were
Yeah, I think
doing
I think
doing doing a little over enthusiastically that they've quit doing. You
I
know.
think it was. I don't think it was the fracking. I think it was how they were disposing
Oh, the
of the
way.
wastewater. I
Uh
mean, they were injecting the wastewater in the ground or not or something. Somehow they've changed that. It didn't eliminate fracking, but they'd do something that was a little more expensive, is my understanding. And I'm not an expert on that
Oh
by any
well, yeah.
means.
That's something that they probably should have been doing all along. Then they were probably doing some dump
Yeah, I
into
think
the
they were.
water table that wasn't good for anybody. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know exactly what it was, but yeah, it was something like that. It was something that they were doing. Yeah, like I said, that was a shortcut, I guess you would
Hmm.
say, some sort. And so they've had to change that, of course, which is good. I mean, I don't want earthquakes,
Yeah.
especially if you can avoid them. This is
Well,
ridiculous.
yeah. You don't need
Um,
property damage,
exactly.
needless property damage.
Well, I mean, I'm okay with, a lot of people are anti oil, but Oklahoma has a good economy when oil is good, and they have a
Hmm.
lousy economy when it's not. And so I'm in favor of. I mean, I've told people what we need in Oklahoma City is we need the Thunder to win the playoffs,
Yeah.
and for oil to be, I forget the number I said, like $75 a barrel, or gas to be 2.75 a gallon or something like that. And then things are good in this town.
Yeah.
But it's when it's cheap, when oil's cheap. And of course, now I think we just settled for a Thunder season. You know.
Yeah. I mean, they aren't playing now, are they?
No. Oh, no, no, no. NBA was canceled. That was the
That's
NBA being
that's
canceled
amazing.
was the domino. Yeah, that was the domino that started all this because that one player came out, and not that it wouldn't have happened eventually anyway, but that one player came out and his test was positive, and so they canceled the NBA season, and then everything canceled, like overnight. or not even overnight, like within hours, and I mean, I think it will. I honestly believe all this will turn around. I mean, because the NBA wants to play games, and I mean, everything wants to go on.
Oh yeah.
That's the contention of my work. My work is very event orientated. I work for anybody that's listening. I work for a company that manufactures awards like trophies and medals and stuff like that. Big company, and so this has really impacted our business because there's not a lot of that thing going on now. My department has been relatively busy, not super busy, but relatively busy because we also manufacture police badges, and they're doing a bunch of police badges right now. That is not abated at all. And so that's one of the reasons how I can justify still drawing a paycheck because what I'm doing is going out. We don't produce them in house; they're done in an outside factory. But the art is done in my department, and so we can draw them, get them approved because our salesmen are working and remotely, and get them sent on their way. And there's nothing going on at the factory itself, but we're able to get money into the plant or money for the company. And so we've been doing that, trying to justify. Now, one of my things that I've been doing is trying to make sure that my employees are busy and productive. And if we slow down, I have to say, okay, we're like one day this week we started late. I said, let's start at 10 tomorrow instead of 7:30. And that was the day we got real busy. So I said, well, back to 7:30 tomorrow. I quit at 4 today because we were caught up. And I was kind of in between stuff. I probably could have worked a little bit longer, but I was just tired of working. And I wasn't looking forward to the commute. That's a joke.
Yeah.
So this hadn't affected you at all, has it, Ellis?
Not much. Like I say, I resent the crowds at the grocery store. Everybody running around trying to scare me with their masks on.
Oh yeah.
I haven't broke down and used because I've got a pack of 5 masks that are for like using while you're doing woodworking projects or whatever. And I guess that'd be better mask. Than what's that? Huh?
Like dust mask?
Yeah, a dust mask.
Oh yeah.
That'd be better than nothing, I guess. But I'm not gonna crack it out and use it because I just don't feel like it yet until they tell me it's just everywhere. It's all around me.
Yeah, I mean, and this is a little naive maybe on my part, but I still feel like here statistically we're still fairly safe in Oklahoma.
Oh yeah.
But I mean, I'm being careful. I mean, Michelle this evening went to my parents' house. She had we'd found Kleenex, and my mom was like, I can't find Kleenex anywhere, so we bought her a 3-pack of Kleenex, and there was something else she was looking for, and so we bought her that. And so Michelle went over to their house, and she didn't go in the house. They came out on the porch and talked. Michelle took the dog. The dog was disappointed. I think the dog thought she was going to get to stay there for a while. The dog is very confused because we're home all the time,
Get used to that.
Well, she may. I mean, just about like the 30th or the 24th or something like that. Now, I mean, that's all. It'll be a month, man. They added a week to it. Michelle was telling me yesterday.
Yeah, so, I'm tired of it.
It's tough, but well, if you're tired of it, then it must be tough because you're a hermit practically.
Well, I'm just ready for the news cycles to move on to stuff that I feel like isn't so made to order for just. It doesn't matter, of course. I just find something else to knock Trump 24/7. But
oh, sure.
It makes me annoyed that they've basically built Mars prayers have been answered. He got a stiff downturn in the economy, and it's something that his side can play with as calling it Trump's fault. And I saw this thing today, and it's just like they've got nothing better to do. Schiff is like, because he can, he can have an investigation into
Oh yeah, I saw that.
Trump's handling of the coronavirus and try to place some blame, some impeachable blame on him. And it's a little annoying that
Well, yeah,
that
I
side.
think, yeah, it's like, come on, don't we have better things to do? I
And
mean,
I love that. That Schiff's biggest moment was practically bellowing into the microphone, "We're better than that." You know, if you ever saw that,
yeah,
that cracked
no, I
me up.
didn't.
No, that's how
I don't.
he was really struggling for capping it. When he's ready to drone on and bore you to death any other time, but he knows he's got to rise to certain kind of levels to act like we're here because we're
Yeah.
just outraged and all that. And so finally he had to add on this emotional moment. We're better than that. Right before that was his final
What's
comment.
what's crazy is when I don't want to talk about this all night, but when
Okay.
when Trump tried to close the borders to China, everyone accused him of being xenophobic,
Oh yeah,
and
yeah.
it's
Oh
like,
no.
well, you what do you expect? What do you what do you want to happen here? You know, but anyway, yeah, I miss what's kind of bummed me out about as much as anything is just all this mayhem going into the comic industry in
Yeah,
terms
yeah,
of
yeah.
will it survive? I mean, this is um,
Yeah, and the comic book stores, which has been a business model that's been, it's retreated so much anyway. In terms of
right.
like, it used to be. It's like, hey, man, I'd like to have a comic book store. That'd suit me fine being in business
Yeah,
for myself. And
yeah.
it's like that
God.
all went away, and there's just not. That's the thing. People have a hard time getting through their head, I think, is that comics are just an infinitesimal, just very small little thing that very few people support.
Oh,
It's
geez.
the
Yeah.
market on comics are just not that big.
Well, that's the thing, and I made that comment on Facebook, and one of a mutual friend of ours kind of argued with me and said, "Well, February sales were the best they've been in 3 years, or something like that." And I'm going, "Yeah, but what were they at? And I mean, you really have to look no further than some of the moves that the companies have been making to go, boy, this is not good. Not good. I mean, you would think that this would be the really when Diamond is, which by the way, one distributor I said forever is a horrible idea.
Yeah.
Um, and I've always said if comics were an industry that had a real profit margin, if it was a real industry, then somebody come along and shut them down for being a monopoly.
Yeah, it was
Um,
going to bite everybody eventually. Them having that
right.
situation.
Yeah, because all would. Yeah. Well, what if the owner died and
Hmm.
or I mean, a business needs something more. I can't imagine that magazines have one option for distributors, and if it were a healthy industry, there'd be competition. And there used to be, you know, uh, but just the see it collapse, not collapse. I mean, not that it's gone necessarily, but just to
Contract.
see.
contract.
Just go, well, we're not going to put out books, which our comic store, or my comic store, I guess I should say, but New World Comics, which is where I go, when I talked to the owner before this, but not before the coronavirus, but before the diamond thing, he said that he hoped that they would stop putting out books because that would allow him time to go through some back order. He said he can exist for a while. Now, I don't want to know for a while is, but he can exist for a while as long as he doesn't have to pay that diamond bill. The diamond bill is the thing. If he's got the diamond bill coming in and the stores were closed, or at least they didn't have business, then he'd be in trouble.
But what did Diamond say they were not going to be paying? That's the thing that really.
I think the publishers.
Okay.
They would, because that, I guess, and probably other people that they owed money to. So that action would hurt publishers. I read a thing that said Marvel Comics had said they will extend credit to Diamond, but like some of the, like Valiant, and apparently a lot of these companies have told their creators, hey, stop working on whatever you're working on.
Yeah.
And that's very, I mean, traditionally in the comic industry, you always want extra time, so you would think they would be, thrilled and be like, hey, full speed ahead. Let's get some product done.
From reading that Marvel or listening to Marvel the Untold Story, that they just love them a good, huge backlog of stuff so that they can go ahead and fire people. They did that as their business model at one time, was to get a huge inventory.
Anybody that's listening to this that wants to work in comics and mainstream comics, and I count myself among those people, by the way, should listen to or read Marvel Comics: The Untold Story by Sean Howe, I think is the author. And you'll learn, man, they do not treat, other than very rare people and very rare circumstances, comics are a terrible industry to work in. I say as I'm drawing a comic page.
Yeah. For very little promise of anything you're going to get out of it too.
Yeah, and they will fire people at the drop of a hat. I mean, it's not an art. I mean, there's an art to it. I'm not saying that they're not artists or whatever, but it's not. It's a business model.
It's not a family.
And
definitely.
and I mean, I love comics. I love the comic industry, but it is not an industry that traditionally has treated people very well. Their creators very well. I've really come to that conclusion in the last couple of years from meeting people. I've met several people over the last few years that have worked for the big two, and have just heard stories. It's just like, holy cow. And, and what's fun is we always think of like, oh man, I want to be like Jim Lee, but I've recently discovered a guy by the name of Jim Mooney, who's quickly become one of my favorite Bronze Age artists. He did in the 70s. He did the initial run of Omega the Unknown. I came across him on a Ms. Marvel Essentials, which reprints. He did a bunch of those issues. And he did some other stuff. And in one of the biographies I've been listening about Stan Lee, it mentions him because him and Stan Lee, like in the 40s, were like best buddies.
Huh.
And them and their wives would hang out all the time. But he worked in comics for all those years.
I'm grabbing some coffee, Scott. Go ahead and tell everybody about Jim Mooney.
Okay, so he was a great artist, but but he was never anybody that was really well known. I mean, he had a career, but I don't know that he wasn't a superstar, and he just didn't, apparently it just never clicked for him. And there were other stories. I think it was Herb Trimpe that in the '90s was basically just fired from Marvel, and he wrote a long article about getting just kicked out of in his late 50s, just being shown the door in comics because all the image stuff or that image style was real popular then, and his style was seen as old fashioned.
Yeah,
Did you,
I've encountered that. When I was in that studio with Mike Miller and Benefiel and Ben Herrera, and who else was in that studio? Jason Rodriguez and Mike Christian. We were quite a talented crew. I was the least of them because I wasn't actually commercially attached to any of the publishers, but they were all freelancing like nobody's business for Malibu. And that was cool, but of course became quite the eye-opener to me just how old-fashioned you get considered if once there is a kind of a going style. Now, of course, artists used to all, especially if you were Marvel, you were told it would be best if you can ape this Kirby guy and try to put over a little bit of Kirby in your work. Even Steranko had to attempt to look like Kirby a bit, and that was in its own kind of like a sentence and editing that artists chafed against. But once, like you say, the image stuff came along. That's so blue. I accidentally turned that blue. Ooh.
I can't see my screens on.
Yeah, no, I know, and I don't think you can. I don't think it comes through on the feed anyway. It is blue. Oh, that's all right.
Well,
I'll lock the transparency and fill it. But
if you talk to editors, or at least in the time that I've talked to them, which has been a while, they will tell you, "Oh no, there's no such thing as we don't have a house style." But you can look at the books and go, "Well, why does everything look the same?"
Yeah,
And I mean, even now, and the border is pretty elastic sometimes. There's always people that don't fit in it, so it's true. You don't have to look like somebody necessarily, but if you look, there is definitely, especially now, there's a real definite style as such. I know and I don't think it's intentional. I think the editors tend to hire people that draw in a certain way, because they know, like, well, if this artist sells, well, Sir got a lot like him, and it's subtle, but I mean, it. You've seen it, Ellis.
Oh yeah. Well, that's what I'm saying. I never will get over the heartache of Ben Herrera looking at my work, some of my work one time, and saying, "You like the old guys, huh?" And basically my style was just a little too antiquated for him, And it's and he of course was.
Who was that said that?
Ben Herrera. He's like all of them, that was pretty good at being an artist in that market, in that little part of Southern California. Once he could be absorbed by games, he got absorbed by games. And I remember the short time I was on Facebook. Was it a short time? It was probably longer than I should have stayed on it. He was, I guess he had enough money put together from this excursion into games that he just went on a around the world tour, staying in hostels and stuff like that. He wasn't a hugely, he wasn't a kid at that point. young enough, I guess, to get away with it. But he just went everywhere, and I was wondering, is this just the adventurer in him that he knows you can go anywhere, and he sent, had great photos, but they just never seemed to stop. It just wasn't like I'm still out here traveling the world. So I don't. He's set
Oh,
aside like
geez.
a year for himself or something to get out there and see the world.
I know a guy that's doing that. His family is on a boat, and it's a sailboat. Now it's it's a catamaran kind of thing, but it's got a cabin,
Uh huh.
and they've gone around the world. And he's a uh, he's a retired, what would you call an eye surgeon? What is that? Is it an ophthalmologist surgeon? I don't. Anyway, whatever you would call that,
Hmm.
that's what he is. And he worked in Saudi Arabia for a while, and I guess he retired. Well, he would work, and then his family would go on these big expeditions, and it's like him and his wife, and I think they're two kids and their wives and a couple grandkids. I think there's about six of them in the group, and they've been yachting around the world. I mean, they went through the Panama Canal recently in this thing that's like, holy cow!
A
But
huge
he's
catamaran.
run into
It's almost like Water
do
World or
what?
something. A huge
It is
catamaran.
like Water World, yeah. And they so they went on this round the world river. They went through the Panama Canal, probably a month or two ago,
So they're
and
small
they
enough to
ended
get in the
up
pan.
going.
Yeah, go ahead.
Do what?
They're small
Oh,
enough to
they
get
ended
through.
up go. Yeah. They can get through there, and it's a cool pictures. They they went to the Panama Canal, and they went, and they're trying to remember where they were going, like to Portugal or somewhere. No, they do. Would that be that way? No. That would be the other way. They were going to the Philippines or somewhere, but near Japan. And the coronavirus thing broke out, and they've been denied. Oh, they were going to Australia,
Yeah.
and they've been denied the and so they've been traveling, and the State Department has put on issues saying they need to come back to America. And so
Hmm.
I think they're in the process of working their way back to America, but like every port they go to is denied them entrance because of this virus.
Well,
And it's been crazy.
yeah, that would be a great hardship. You got to have your supplies renewed.
Well, he's been able to get supplies renewed.
Mm.
People have brought him boated supplies out to him, but
Mm.
he's he's kind of crazy. So he he's going to have to take his boat is small enough he can put in his backyard, or maybe I should say his backyard is big enough he can put his boat into it.
Hmm.
I mean, he's a surgeon. I forget where he showed his house was, because he on Facebook he put a deal out that was his house, and he had photoshopped an aerial picture of his boat in his backyard. And he's like, "Till I increase the pool size, my boat is going to be in dry dock for a while." But anyway, yeah. So
There are people like that. There was a art instructor at Otis when I was there that, he had a funny nickname. He was the most beloved of the art teachers at Otis, and by the kids anyway, because he was pretty much a big kid himself. It seems like it was like Iggy or something like that. And
oh yeah,
he's a really good artist, and a great digital painter. And I've seen some of the kids he produced, and he gave them a quick handle on that kind of digital painting mastery. But he did that. He was in a little sailboat, and he would post little things to his web page where and blog and vlog about his adventures traveling around. These guys that get out on that big empty ocean and go for it, that's something.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm.
Because,
I don't know if I'm out for that.
well, yeah, I mean, you get out there and you lose a little bit of confidence on where am I? You better know where you're at, because you could be there a while if you don't know where you're at.
Yeah. Well, or you could run into. I don't know. I'd like a little more civil.
Shortages.
I don't even like going to small towns. So
Yeah.
we were watching something. Oh, it was this show on cable, and the guy was in Telluride, Colorado, and which is like a little. I guess it's a western town. Like an old west town. Apparently, I think Butch Cassidy robbed his first bank there or something like that. But anyway, he was doing this show, and I told Michelle, I go, well, that's kind of a neat looking little town. And I said, sometimes I think it'd be cool to live in a little town like that. And I realized, like, I couldn't work. Neither one of us could work. I couldn't get anything I liked there. It's just
Yeah.
like,
No. The charm of a little town is the idea that you're going to find some sort of weird tranquility that you don't have now, and it's an illusion. Sometimes, in some cases, you get less because since everyone knows you, they're more likely to be at the door bugging you for things. You know,
oh yeah,
at least that was the way it was
yeah.
in the
I'm just
deeply rural areas of Arkansas. I'm familiar with anyway.
Yeah, I'm not a small town guy, and I think being on a boat for a long time would just be worse.
Yeah.
You know.
Have you ever
Are you
seen?
watching the chat? Is anybody watching?
Actually, my screensaver just came on. That shows you how much attention I'm paying to this. I'm just yakking with you. Let's see what we got here. Oh, it says, hello, Ellis from Thomas.
Oh,
Who might Thomas
even
be?
later time, Thomas found us.
Yeah,
No, we've had Thomas, haven't we?
we've had Fly Fox Pro,
I think.
Farmer Dan. Thomas is talking to us. I'm not actually got the YouTube going at the same time, but we do show a chat here on in the control panel of this.
Oh, read it.
Oh, it just says hello, Ellis. Maybe he
Oh,
doesn't know
there you
you.
go.
Maybe he knows me and doesn't know you. I don't know.
That's okay.
Well,
I'm not offended. It's your channel, so I'd expect people to know you, not me.
yeah. I just watched to listen in.
But
He just says I watched to listen
gotcha.
in.
That's cool. Oh yeah. Well, wildly entertaining. It's funny is with this virus and people being isolated, I find myself watching a lot of YouTube chats. It's just like, and I've regressed, I think, because I think I had outkicked the Facebook habit, and I've regressed to where now it's just like any information is just like, oh my gosh, I've got to get it. I've got to get, I got to stay in contact with people.
Yeah.
When I really, which is funny because I could be a hermit. I mean, I'm in a lot of ways I'm envious of your lifestyle, but then in some ways when it comes down to it, it's like, no, I don't want to live that life. No offense.
No, that's all right.
Well, we've talked about it.
Yeah. My lifestyle is not for everyone. Like I say, my mom and Russell were just two totally. That was the, coming for a visit I could be the beloved prodigal son, and I could just be so happy to see everybody. And Russell would kind of keep
Yeah.
his problems under his hat, and that would work like that. But I became such a no-show in the last few years before I showed up on the door in camp. I think about, and I get so guilty about my
No, I don't
presumption.
think you should.
Yeah, my presumption
Well,
about
I don't.
moving in. It's you think about yourself a lot in the quiet moments about stuff like that.
Well, I've told you, of course, that my wife and I have been helping my cousin. My cousin, for anybody listening, my cousin is a year older than me. Her parents got divorced when she was a kid, and her mom raised her, and it was very not good circumstances. There was drug abuse and that sort of thing,
Hmm.
and so I saw him. We now, as adults, because she doesn't drive and she's pretty much desperately poor, my wife and I try and help them. And so, in that course of that, I've gotten to know my cousin a lot better than I did certainly when we were kids. And she has a lot of similar kind of regrets. She regrets, how she treated her mom and how her mom treated her. Well, her mom is gone, and so it's like, well, that's the past. You can't really do anything about the past,
Yeah,
you
that's
know.
true, and it's so weird about what you feel guilty about. I Russell is the guy I'm most guilty about, and yet Russell's the guy that was most likely to get me to have a fight to the death with him. That's how bad
Well,
off things were between us. That it would have eventually boiled up to it if certain conditions were just right. He always was kind of
well,
looking for a fight.
but he had issues.
Yeah,
I
oh
mean,
yeah,
that's
oh
the
yeah.
thing, and so yeah, I don't know. I'm a big believer, and you can't. I mean, you times so there's nothing you can do about it. But try and say, well, if I had an opportunity in similar circumstances, maybe I would learn from whatever I
Oh,
did or do something different or
that's
whatever.
the funny thing. I know that because I'll have something come up that gives me a similar challenge to be less of a jerk, and it'll be like I go right back into jerk mode in terms of like being greedy with my time and saying, hey, you got problems, I don't want to hear about them, that sort of thing.
Well, I
Yeah.
mean,
Hey,
like I said, there are
I had
times.
I had a girlfriend of Russell's show up on the doorstep just this. Oh, what was it? Oh, actually, it was during one of our talks. Yeah, so it must have been. It was.
Is that who you? The doorbell rang one day. Who it
Yeah,
was?
yeah,
It
and I
was
just I
maybe it was like,
disappeared. Yeah, I disappeared. Was that during
yeah,
our?
you were like,
Yeah,
yeah, it was last Wednesday.
was it last Wednesday
I
or was
think.
it
I don't think. Yeah,
was it during the
no, no, no. It was
Better Than Fiction?
maybe been better than fiction. I can't
Yeah,
remember,
yeah, I think it
but
was.
no, I think it was you and I talking.
Okay.
Anyway, girlfriend of Russell's.
Yeah, and she was. Well, that means it was the Better Than Fiction because it was like in an afternoon setting, and there
Oh,
she
that's
was.
right, because it was at 2.
Yeah, too.
Yeah, we recorded at 2. What'd she say? Well, I mean, did she know he had
Well,
passed away?
yeah, she was apparently claiming to be unaware of it, and I'm just so suspicious. If anybody's got anything to do with Russell, I'm extremely suspicious of him. So, I just told her, yeah, I made it as short as I could without being rude. That
Sure.
yeah, he was gone. Had been for 3 years. You know, she wanted me to know that she was a person that Russell had tattooed onto himself. It's like I do seem to remember that I remember the name tattooed onto him. Looks like Doug TenNapel is going to do another Night of the Puppets. I won't be there. I got on there last night and I got drunk, and boy, that's the reason I started everything. I started everything late today. I got how much I drank all this vodka, got good and drunk, and then I paid for it all day today. Not, there's so little hangover to this drinking vodka for me. I'm pretty amazed by it. I guess it's going to be my booze of choice hereafter. It has the least taste. It it does it for you. It gets you drunk, which I guess is all you want.
What was this that you were drinking? What'd you say it was?
Oh, it's a vodka called Reyka vodka. It's allegedly one of the most tasteless vodkas you can get.
Oh,
Comes from somewhere like Sweden or something.
oh yeah. Well, I don't drink, so
At all.
Were you puppet show? Was it a puppet show?
Doug has all these friends that get together with him that make a stab at having some sort of little proxy on screen that moves its mouth, and so
Oh well,
we
I saw a
talk
picture
to.
of you with a. I saw that you had a picture with a ski mask on or something. And I was
Yeah,
like, what
yeah,
in the world?
yeah. That was my.
Is that were you wearing that?
Yeah, I was a chin puppet, which is where you put your eyes on the bottom of your chin. But I didn't wear that ski mask. I just went. You'll have to check it out, or I'll send you a link or something.
I'll check it out. I'll check it. I have time to watch stuff now. What's funny is, I'm working still. I mean, I got to work at 7:30 in the morning, but people have been calling me and wanting me to do different things. Hey, could you work on this or whatever? And it's like, no, and or calling the house, and there was something. I won't go to the details, but it was like somebody wanted Michelle. It's like, well, you can come over this afternoon. Want her to go do something. And Michelle's like, well, I'm working today. I was like, oh gosh, you know. So I have more time, or I feel like I have more time because, man, the other day I slept until I don't know what time I went to bed. I watched a movie before I went to bed, and I slept until like 7:10. And Michelle comes in there, or I wake up and I go, holy cow! And so I run. I threw some clothes on. Of course, I'm on video, so no one's running in the room and log in, and people start clocking in. Oh yeah, I tell them email me when you clock in or whatever. But it's like I was up and at work in 15 minutes, you know?
Pretty impressive.
And then yeah, it's like holy cow! I saved. Normally I get up at 5:15. I saved 2 hours that morning, and I still felt great all day. I wasn't tired at all, and
That
the
sleep,
problem is,
yeah,
do what?
that sleep is what you need every now and then. Really, really get that sleep in.
Well, it's not a big issue because there's no commute to work.
Yeah.
And see, I get a break at 10 o'clock. And, and so, I mean, I walked in, and then when the guys come in, I started working on something. I went downstairs and fired up actually, the coffee pot was on timer, so it was already going. And then at 10 o'clock, I think I went down and made some oatmeal,
Mm-hmm.
and Michelle and I have been running. I think I told you this. We've been running at lunchtime, which has been great. I've been taking a little bit longer lunch and running, and then I can jump in the shower and eat, and it's like 50 minutes or an hour. It's a little bit longer today because we had a garage door guy come by. My garage door, the bar that connects the opener pulled away from the garage door, so I couldn't get. I mean, I could get it open. The opener wouldn't work, so I had to manually open the door, which was fine. We did that for a while, but the guy came by and put a brace on it and fixed it, and it cost me like $95, which I thought was worth it because he checked out the rest. I lined it up and looped it up and all that jazz. But honestly, I think if it were just me here at the house, I don't think I'd have a garage door opener. Just because
it's one of those things you get used to, I'm sure.
Oh, sure, but we've had various issues with the garage door opener off and on, and you can pull the thing. It's nice when we were walking the dog because we got a keypad, so we get in the house. We don't take it with us. We have.
That's how you get in and out of the house. You go through your garage. Yeah.
Right, but yeah, if I lived alone, I wouldn't have a garage door. Do you park your car in the garage, don't you?
Anymore? Yeah, after the break-in, I started parking it in the. I didn't.
That's what I figured.
And I'm glad. It just feels better. It feels better having a.
Yeah, it does feel. I mean, when we lived in apartments, we didn't have a garage, and I didn't think a whole lot about it. But man, once you get used to it,
insecure.
It's pretty nice.
It's one thing that would go away for just almost 99% of anybody that does a move to California. Man, parking is just catch as catch can.
Yeah.
All over the place. It's insanity what they expect people that. Here you got this economy that is based on people having to rent, and they don't have parking for the poor fools. They all have to fend for themselves out on the streets. It's awful.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. We're spoiled here. I mean, I like having a garage. Oh yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, I'd considered, had we recorded earlier. Originally, I wasn't going to draw during the recording, but I got drawn, and once I got started, I was like, okay, I'm on a roll. I'm going to. I consider sitting on the porch, and I would miss that about not having. We looked at moving to New York City. Oh, it's been years ago, and then one year, last year we went there. No, 2018 we went to New York. We basically rented an apartment when we were there, and it was so tight. The whole apartment was probably about the size of your living room, Ellis.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
The kitchen, everything,
and
it was one room, and it was. I forget what Michelle looked up, and it was like this particular apartment would cost $2,500 a month. And I told Michelle the other day, I go, can you imagine what it would be like if we were up there in that apartment under this quarantine?
Yeah. It'd be where you were at. Yep. I imagine those New Yorkers hit this. Don't you imagine they hit the street in a big mob every day anyway?
Michelle's friend lives up there, and she hadn't left her apartment in like weeks. I mean, left her apartment, dude.
Man.
Oh yeah. It's too dangerous because you can't stay 6 feet away from people on the streets.
Yeah.
It's too crowded, and too many. Here. I mean, we're going to go to the grocery store probably Friday, and I'm not super worried about it. I'm going to be careful and wash my hands and all that jazz. But it's because here there's like, 500 cases of the coronavirus.
Yeah.
Up there it's like 25,000, something like that. And so here, just mathematically, you can go, well, I'd be careful, of course. I mean, you should always be careful, but I'm probably going to be okay. Odds are I will not run into anybody that has it. Now, that may change, but as the stats are currently, you're relatively safe. But, man, I mean, like I said, her friend hadn't left their apartment in in, I think it's like 2 weeks, maybe.
Hmm. That would be
That's,
rough.
yeah. But I mean, there are a lot of people that are leaving their house, though. I mean, because there are people that can't take it,
Yeah, yeah. It's
you know. We've been, like I said, we've been running, and I think that's been keeping Michelle sane because it gets her out of the house and it gets, get a little bit of exercise, a little bit of adrenaline and that sort of thing. And it's fun, she's enjoying it. I've been trying to get her to run with me for years, and she wouldn't do it, just because she didn't think she'd like it, but she's gone a couple times, or we've
well,
been doing
I
it
can I can
for, I
see
guess,
why
about a week now.
I can see why her leg would act up early running conditioning. That always
Uh,
is hard to go through. I mean, you're going to have some aches and pains.
hmm Well, I think, well, here's, okay, this will tell you about my wife. We've been running a mile and a half every day. And she still every night gets on the elliptical, does Pilates. And I think she pulled, or she strained her abductor muscle in her left leg. And I don't think she would do that running. I think she says she thinks she did it because she did a new routine
Mm-hmm.
on the Pilates, and it was kind of a deal where you're jumping sideways,
Yeah.
kind of doing that
Mm-hmm.
sideways motion,
Mm-hmm.
and she thinks that's how she did it, and I tend to agree.
Yeah. Though it's real easy to yank some stuff around
Yeah,
and hurt yourself on workouts.
yeah,
Any sort of change up.
but
But it's good to work out anyway.
oh, absolutely. Sorry, you dropped out there for a second.
Okay.
Yeah, it's okay. Um, yeah, um, and it's good because I think a lot of people are just sitting in their house and eating,
Mm-hmm.
from what they're saying on the social medias, and I mean, this is like a hibernation. That's how I'm viewing it,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
We'll all come back to life.
Well, yeah, I mean,
Have you ever seen a movie called?
what?
Have you ever seen a movie called The Ninth Configuration?
Never heard of it. What's it about?
It's on Amazon Prime. Well, it's a kind of a cool movie. It's written, directed, and semi-produced because he put up $2 million of its $4 million budget by William Peter Blatty. It's what he did with some of his
Okay.
Exorcist money, and it's a really really good film. I had seen it before, but I tell you what, last night while I was nursing, not the swims, but I was nursing the effects of being drunk, I decided to watch the
Yeah.
rest of that. And I'm sure it's because I was drunk, but I just felt like it was about the best movie I've ever seen. It was just great. And I'm sure it's mostly being drunk, but it was a good movie. I may even revisit it again here sometime soon. It's great dialogue, great
I'll have to
characters.
check it out.
Yeah, check it out. Stacy Keach and a couple other guys that are well known to me. They might not be known to your particular generation, but Neville Brand, he was a guy that was he was in DOA. Well, no, we didn't watch DOA on Classic Cinema podcast, but
Oh yeah.
he's always a dark presence in noir films, or in the few he was in. He was also in was he in Laredo? He's in one of those cowboy shows that he was in for a long time. He got a good long run on TV and cowboys. He's basically during that era that Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is talking about.
Oh yeah.
I need to rewatch that sometime. Once Upon a Time
Oh
in
yeah,
Hollywood.
I think it's a it's definitely worth rewatching. It'll definitely hold up.
It's interesting to hear people that, they're crazy about movies that you can't even hardly imagine ever watching again. And for me, one of them would be Django, which has got some great performances in it by that guy that played the Nazi um, and played the father in Lolita,
Oh yeah.
the
I know
German,
who you're talking about.
the German, yeah.
Yeah.
And he's a great actor, and Django's got him in it doing his usual great work. But I just hated Django. Didn't feel much better about Hateful Eight.
I never saw it.
Yeah, it's not for everyone, I don't think, but it's obviously well made. It's just
Right.
what else came up? Oh yeah, I was tickled when I watched these Red Letter Media's reviews where they go back and visit movies that they saw once a long time ago, and they are looking at it with their new eyes. They're looking at movies they've seen before and had a judgment about, and they go back to them and decide whether they're as bad or as good as they thought they were. And they were looking at Eli Roth's Cabin Fever, and I
Oh
never
yeah.
thought that movie was good. It's amazing what you can kickstart a career with, I tell you. Because to me, Cabin Fever should have been like, don't let that guy ever have a cent of our money. But that was the start of his career. Aaron Ward says, I hate Quentin Tarantino. So we do have another chat.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Uh
Well, I
oh.
mean,
Uh
Quentin will drive you crazy and stuff like Death Proof and stuff like that. Man, I can't imagine anybody rewatching some of these things. He's so indulgent about his flair for dialogue, which is considerable. It's just so.
Yeah, but that only gets you so far.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah,
You know.
it takes you too far out of the story.
Right. It's yeah.
He's just chewing up pages with the dialogue. It's taking you nowhere.
Yeah. I didn't care for Hateful Eight.
Oh no. Well, see, that's another
It
one.
was just too much.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean it was too much. It was too I really enjoyed Once Upon a Time in Hollywood though. I thought it was good. He lost enough of his Tarantino-ness to make it enjoyable, I thought.
Yeah.
Um, you
His,
know.
his next film is supposedly going to be his last.
Oh, really?
Is his plan? Yeah, I think so.
Huh. That's interesting. You don't think you think of a guy like that obviously loves movies and you go, he's a guy that will die making movies, But then you also think about all that goes into it, and you kind of see why nobody in the right mind would want to be a director.
Yeah. Well, and it is amazing though that someone that obviously can do it as handily as Tarantino does and has because I think the reason he does it as well as he does it is he approached it from uh, being a guy that went to the trouble of taking improv and acting classes. And of course, he was always a big buff. He was one of those guys in
Yeah.
the video store that would tell you about this and that about this Hong Kong movie you needed to see and all that. So he's well, no kidding, a film lover. And like Aaron Ward
Yeah.
says, it just starts narrating 3/4 into Hateful Eight. Yeah, they just start telling you the story, pretty much.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't care for Hateful Eight. It was too much dialogue.
A lot of dialogue.
And
It's pretty much stage bound. It was a stage play practically.
oh, absolutely. It would be play.
But
But
I mean, it had Kurt Russell in it, and it had what's her name?
yeah.
Oh, I love her little actress. She is always she always manages to act like she's pretty much one of the guys. I tell you, she's great. Dating all the way back from the days of Fast Times at Ridgemont High. Oh, what's her name? And I loved her in the one about the hula hoop inventor. The what's that called? Nah, I can't remember titles. Never mind.
The Okay, so I'm going to tell you about something I've been doing lately, and if
Okay.
anybody's listening to this, they can jump in on this bandwagon. Um, I've been going on Instagram. Actually, I've been going on the internet, and I've been finding pictures of cool comic shops. And I've been posting on Instagram, and I've been hashtagging them with "Why Comic Shops Matter."
Uh huh.
Um, Yeah, I'm hoping that somebody else. I'm doing a couple every day. So if you go on Instagram and you search for "Why Comic Shops Matter," then that's me posting them. So far it's just me. I mean, literally nobody else has posted anything, but that's okay.
That's a good hashtag. I
Um,
like that. That could go
I think it
places.
is, and I mean, do what?
Yeah, that could catch fire.
Well, that's what I'm hoping. I mean, not that I care about me starting something, but I just think that the comic industry is in big trouble, and I think the publishers are in trouble. I think the shops are in trouble. It is something. I mean, I grew up. Oh, at a certain point in my life, arcades became a thing, video arcades,
Mm-hmm.
and I saw them flourish, and I saw them wane, and I saw them flourish, and I saw them vanish. And I
Yes.
do not want comic shops to vanish like arcades, and I think it could happen.
Oh, easy,
And
easy.
so
Yeah.
I think it could happen very easy. And so if somebody is out there and they're listening to this and they love comic shops, and I'm posting shops, I'm trying to find shops I've been to in different parts of the country, but I'm looking for just, I mean, there's kind of this classic comic shop look, and that's what I'm going for. That's what I'm trying to find is pictures of that. And I don't really care if I know who it is or not. And several people have piped up to identify shops, which is cool. Um, I'm just trying to evoke the I don't know if you call it nostalgia or what, the sense that among viewers or watchers that this could be something that could easily disappear. We don't think it could disappear, but it could easily disappear. Just like arcades, we never thought back in the '80s. We never thought arcades would vanish. So we thought I'd be my age and go into an arcade, and they're not. There, I think few around, but not very many, and certainly not enough to be an industry. And so I'm trying to get that going. And I think why comic shops matter. And I kind of stole that. There was a there was a video that went around, and I think one of the online like Vice or somebody like that did called I think it's called "Why We Love Comics," and it just had all these cool pictures. And I'm not a guy. We meet in the course of our travels. You and I, we meet a lot of other artists, and if they're into comics, they're usually into like a millionaire. They're super into Star Wars and Doctor Who and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm generally not into any of that crap. I like comic books,
Mm-hmm.
and that's about it. I mean, I read a little bit of science fiction, and I play Dungeons and Dragons. Other than that, I'm just a comic book guy.
Mm-hmm.
And so,
Well,
you know,
you're a reader.
that's I'm a reader, but but I've been lapsed because of the industry. But that's a whole nother thing.
Yeah.
But that's been, like I said. I mean, I don't want to see comics disappear. So I'm hoping that by sharing this and maybe getting other people to share it, it will spark this idea that, I mean, like me, I have not been to my shop in several months because I'm not currently reading anything being put out. But I went to the effort. I stopped at this comic, and there were some back issues I wanted. And he's doing curbside service. This has been a week or so ago. And I said, I texted him and said, "Hey, I'm looking for these back issues. Do you have them?" And so part of that was out of the realization this could all go away. you know, and I say that again. I'm sitting there drawing a comic, and I don't think the industry will go away, but I think a lot of shops could go away.
Change. This is too much of a way to make basically an easy to make pitch for an IP is to have a popular comic book. This is what Doug does so well, and a lot of people have done successfully, is to just ignore whether or not you can make a living at it, and get something that you can put out there and make into a solid pitch that someone then gets interested in for the uses of Hollywood or something. But of course, all that kind of went away in terms of it's all basically going to be Dark Horse or Marvel and DC in terms of where those IPs are coming from. They've kind of hogged all that at this point. It used to be there was more likely to have an indie comic that could show up. Aaron Ward says they do whatever they need to do, whatever manga is doing, if possible. I'm not even sure that we could even start to have a manga model, because basically those poor guys that work at manga, they may have job security, I don't know, but they work like medieval serfs. They can't do anything but work. And
what's there's the Paul Pope worked in moved to Japan and worked in manga for a while, and he told a story about, forget the number of pages that they were insisting he did a week. It was like 50 pages or whatever it was. It was just killing him, and he's a guy that is pretty fast. And so he's talking to his editor, and he's like, "Man, I'm having trouble keeping up to these pages." And they said, "Well, how many assistants do you have?" And he goes, "Well, I don't have any assistants." And they go, "Oh, that's the problem. You need some assistants." But yeah, you're right. They work to death over there. But yeah, I mean, the whatever they're doing, and I don't know enough about the manga industry to say, to speculate. I know they do anthology magazines, and that's something I thought they should do all the time, or for a long time I thought they should do that over here. But when they do them, they don't sell.
Yeah.
CrossGen was doing them for a while.
Yeah.
Anyway, hey, what time is it?
It is time to quit. We've been at it an hour and 13 minutes.
Oh,
hey, thanks, Aaron, for contributing so much on our little chat here.
Yeah, thank you very much.
And we will we'll end the broadcast now.
Hang on.
What you wanted to say something? I'm sorry. I think. Good. It didn't take my button.
Yeah. I just want to reiterate, if anybody is out there and they've listened to this, they've heard that I'm doing the hashtag like comic shops matter, and you're putting pictures of comic shops. Preferably, it's like your local comic shop. I'm on it. If you search into that, you'll see, and I've tagged it with different things. But the main tag I'm pushing is why comic shops matter. Anyway, that's all I want to say, Ellis.
Okay.
Now you can end broadcast.
Okay, well, I will end broadcast, and thanks for coming by, everybody.
Yeah, thank you very much.